Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to the end of day 2 of Together We Rise, and we're so grateful for all of you for sticking with us up until now. This is Introduction to Professional Networking, and I'm going to hand it over to one of my colleagues, someone I am connected to over LinkedIn and professionally networked with, Sania, who is going to be leading this session.
Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. I can get started. Okay. So, hey guys, my name's Sania. I currently work as a UI UX designer at a software company in California. Basically, I kind of do the front end designs. So if you ever use an app, or not even an app, like any game you play, any website you use, that was designed by someone who does UI or UX. And so that is what I do professionally. So there was one thing that I wish I knew when I was younger, and that was how to network. And by network, I mean, so okay, there's different groups that you have in your life. You have your friends, you have your family, you have school, and some of you may have work. But there's something that kind of combines all of those things together, but mostly work, and it's called networking. And so professional networking has a lot of pros. It's not difficult to do, but a lot of people don't do it. So I'm going to explain how to network. So first of all, why do we network? Well, unfortunately, we need money in our life. Like cost of living is kind of expensive everywhere. And so you have to know how to get a good job that pays well and will help you, not just pay your bills, but let you have a life. So you can do hobbies and just, fun things as well. And so how do you get the good jobs? Well, that's where networking comes in. About 75 to 85% of positions are filled through networking. People are more likely to hire people they know and have worked with and like than just random people who, they pick through like the different job application sites that they use. Like a lot of positions will get hundreds, if not sometimes thousands of resumes for a single position, and that's a lot. And it's also not very personal. So if you're like, applying to a position that 500 other people are applying to, how do you stand out? Well, networking. And as I mentioned, a lot of these positions will have huge groups of applicants. And so if you network and you know someone, you'll automatically get moved to the top of the list that the HR or hiring manager will talk to. Also, a big thing is sometimes a job you want may not be advertised at all. And what I mean by that is, if you want to work at a specific job and like they have a position in the thing you want, if they know you, they'll offer it to you first before they post it on sites like LinkedIn or Indeed or just other job posting sites. And that will automatically get you a foot in the door than just, having to wait and apply with 500 other people. So I'm going to explain how networking has worked for me. So I work with a group that's part of the Clubhouse Network called Listo America. And so through Listo America, I got an article published. There was an educational site. They wanted to talk to, people who worked in software for educational companies, such as me. I used to work at McGraw-Hill, which some of you may know as a textbook company. I worked on their software side. So I talked to this journalist who worked for an ed tech publication. She interviewed me, and then this article was published online. Then someone, a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months later, they read that article, and this person, she was interested in getting into ed tech. So she reached out to me on LinkedIn and we connected. And we kind of kept in touch, throughout the year being last year. I would ask her how she was doing. She asked me how I was doing. Sometimes there was job openings in my company that I would refer her to. And so, one day I kind of mentioned I was looking for some freelance work, and she was like, oh, I know someone who needs a designer. And so she hooked me up with this one person, and I do some freelance work for them. So that kind of shows you how interconnected our social interactions are. Like one small thing can lead to literally a job, like a paid position. Also, the current job and even my previous full-time jobs have been basically given to me because I networked the people who work there. So how do you network? I'm going to show a couple different steps to do it. So the first thing is you want to make a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is the biggest online networking site. So let me kind of display what I'm talking about. So this is LinkedIn. It's kind of known as the boring social media site. It's not like where you'll post like selfies or pictures of like your friends and parties or hanging out. It's like the professional networking site. So it's like most social media sites in that you have like a, news feed. So people you like are connected with, they'll be on this feed, they'll post updates, there's job positions, like it shows promotions when people are getting hired. Has a lot of stuff, but it's just like, it's a professional networking site. So it doesn't have like, the fun stuff. It's more business based. But it is important to have a LinkedIn site because it's, like I said, it's the largest professional networking group online. If not even online, in person as well. Like a lot of employers, won't even look at your resumes. They'll just go straight to your LinkedIn site. So here's my LinkedIn profile. I keep it updated as often as I can. I list the positions I'm in, positions I worked at. I'll update things. I'll have like, my contact, like email. Basically, it's a really good way to meet people in companies or positions you're interested in. Also, there's another site where you can find people to connect with. It's called ADP List. So let me show that. So ADP List, it's mainly geared towards the tech industry, mostly design, but they have people from all around the world, all different companies, who are basically experts at a certain thing in their field. So let's say that you want to get into game design. So you can search mentors, people who've signed up, who work in this field. And so here it gives me some people who work in game design. So let's say there's this person here who works at Epic. You can click here and you can connect with them. So you can message them on their contact information, or you can book a session with them, which is usually just booked through something like Zoom. And you pick available date, and then you say, hey, I'm interested in meeting with you. Like just do a brief introduction about yourself, and you can also connect with them this way. A nice thing about ADP List is that these people have specifically signed up because they want people to message them. So it's a good resource if you're like, if you don't want to just message random people on LinkedIn because you're afraid they might ignore you or you just find it too, overwhelming. ADP List is specifically for people who say, hey, I want to help you. So you can message them directly on this site. Go back to the slide deck. So LinkedIn and ADP List are two resources, but so let's say you actually connect with someone, you find someone in a field. What do you do next? Well, make an introduction. Don't just, be like, hi, like say your background, like I'm so-and-so, I'm interested in, game design. Like I'm a student, and then kind of just ask like a brief like question, be like, basically what you want from them. Like, do you want them to look at your portfolio? Do you want them to give you career advice? Do you want to ask like how they got into that company or field? It's just a good like, brief introduction. Don't make it super long. Like don't do like 5 paragraphs, but keep it to maybe a few sentences. And also don't just like ask for like something like a job right away. You'll usually turn a lot of people off if your first introduction is, hey, are you hiring? A lot of people don't work in hiring, even if they work at a big company like Google. That doesn't mean they actually hire people. Like there are people specifically in Google who hire people. I would not just ask for something right away. The thing about networking, you need to know it's a process. Because even if you connect with someone and you like them, you're not going to get, a job right away. It's like you're really basically building a relationship. And if possible, you can schedule an informational interview with them. And by informational interview, I mean, you just do like a short, like no more than 30-minute, like talk with them about, their field, how they got into it, any advice they have for you, and so on. So the people you do want to message, make sure like they're not upper management or senior people, because they usually will not get back to you. That's important to note, especially for big companies. Like if you do want to talk to someone at Google, it's better to ask someone at Google who maybe started like, a year or 2 ago. someone who's not like a VP or just like a very senior level person, because they're very busy and they probably get a lot of messages on sites like LinkedIn. So they're probably not going to reach back to you. And the way to check that is LinkedIn tells you when someone joined a company. So that's a good way to know how long they've been there. Like I mentioned earlier, don't just ask for a job. It's weird. Don't ask them to review your resume or portfolio either, unless they specifically, say, hey, I look at portfolios and resumes. Like on ADP list, there's a whole section of people who just review portfolios. So you can do it there. But otherwise, asking for something from basically a random stranger right away is sort of weird, and it's just not very tactful. So maybe if you get to talking to them a bit, then you can ask them for, if they have any positions open or if they could look at your resume or portfolio. Like I said, it takes a while. It's a process. This is kind of hard to do just with our world right now, but I think going to events is a big leg up. Obviously, there's these virtual events like this conference, and there are a ton of those. So that's good to go to. But I do also recommend going to in-person events once, they open up again. Professional conferences are a great way to meet people. They're usually pretty expensive because the company pays for them. So if you want to go to like a tech conference, they're usually like hundreds of thousands of dollars to attend. But usually there are student and volunteer options where you can attend these conferences for very little, if not free. So that's a good way to do it. You can also check out this one site that I use a bit called Meetup. So meetup.com, it's literally for, meeting people. And there's a lot of professional networking groups here as well. So let's say you want to become like a web designer. You can just type in web design on Google and it'll show you like local groups that do, that thing you're looking for. So if I want to get into web development, there's a couple groups here, and you can of course change, your location. And there's a lot of remote groups too now because, everything is remote. So that's a pretty good way to meet people in person. Networking is always going to be a key up than online networking just because it's more personal. In-person networking is kind of the same way as online networking, go up, introduce yourself. But again, don't just ask for stuff right away, like a resume or portfolio. One important thing to know is if you do meet up with people in person, just ask them if you can connect with them on LinkedIn or their email, and usually they'll be okay with it. So let's say you connected with someone and you think that person is, pretty cool. So what do you do now? Well, you have to keep your connections active. What I mean by active is like a professional relationship. And like every relationship, you have to put some effort into it. So let's say you really, really, really want to work at a game company. You connect with someone who works there, try to keep in touch with them. Don't pester them like, every day or every week. They'll just get really annoyed. But, every couple of weeks or every couple of months, you'd be like, hey, how's it going? Like, I've updated my resume. Can you take a look? Just kind of keep it casual and know that sometimes they might not get back to you right away. Sometimes they don't get back to you at all, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. People are busy. Sometimes, people get a lot of messages from random people, so they just ignore them. But, a lot of the times you'll reach out to someone, you'll connect with them, and then you'll just never hear back from them again. And that just happens. So, that is a big part of networking. Not all your networks will survive. But the key is to not get discouraged. You have to keep on doing it. Like I said, it's a process. And like all relationships, it takes time. So even if if you're not getting a feedback or you're not getting any people, to reply back to you, you might want to change your approach or just kind of try with some different group of people. So these are some links. I'll share out the link on the Zoom chat for my slide deck. These are a lot of different articles about networking. This article is how to network for shy people. I'm a pretty big introvert myself. So if you're like, oh God, how do I talk to people? This is a really good article. And there's some other kind of just general networking articles I suggest you check out. Again, networking is how you stand out and it'll help you for sure. And it would be bad of me for not to connect. So this is my email. You guys can email me about questions, especially about software, how to work in a software company, design for software, or even if you're not interested in design, I know a lot of other people in tech, so I could probably connect you with them as well. So if you're like, hey, I want to work at a game company, I know a few people who work at some, I can, connect you with them. And this is my LinkedIn. And to just go to LinkedIn, you just click on this URL and there'll be a button here that'll say like connect, and you can just click the connect button and I'll add you. But yeah, that is basically how networking 101. Do you guys have any questions? Is there anyone who wants to get into a specific company? I can just show you how to do like a brief intro on LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm gonna open my chat on here. Well, let me just kind of show you how it works. So let's say you want to become like a software developer at, a big company, like let's just say Google, because that's obviously a very big company. So, obviously, it's got a lot of people at Google. So, let me see if I can find a software developer. Actually, let me narrow it down. Okay, so here are some software developers at Google. Like I said, you want to get someone more junior. So this is a design lead. I wouldn't really message this person unless you know them directly or know someone who connects you. But here's like a software engineer at Google. So let's look at her profile. So see how long she's worked at Google. So she's only worked there for 6 months. So this person is a pretty good person to reach out to because they are fairly new to the company. And there's a good chance they will reach out to you. So all you want to do is you just click this connect button. And when you click connect, there'll be a paragraph that asks, you can have a brief message and you could just be like, hi, I'm a student. I really want I really want to get into software development. Can you give me some advice, or would you be available to just a 20-minute, Zoom session? And like I said, a lot of people will ignore you, but a lot of people also get back to you. You'd be kind of surprised. When I wanted to get into UX design, I reached out to a bunch of people, and one of them even just gave me his phone number. He's like, yeah, just, we can just chat and I'll tell you about the job. And it was pretty cool. It was very informal and it was very informational. So you never know. A lot of these people, they are busy, but a lot of them will get back to you. Like I said, especially if you kind of just are very honest and upfront about what you're expecting. If you're just a student and you're like, hey, I just want to know more, they will tell you. And if you're just like, I want a job, just be like, I'm looking for, I'm looking for a job in the software field. Do you have any advice? And like I said, they will definitely tell you it. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll share out this deck and hopefully you guys will look at some of these links. They are pretty useful. Oops. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Sonia. Are there any other questions either in the chat or if you want to click on the reactions to raise your hand that way? Now's a great time while you've got such a talented person to speak with about this very important skill for finding work.
I have a question for you, Sonia. I'm wondering how Clubhouse members should reflect their Clubhouse experience on their, let's say, like LinkedIn page, for example. I think that would, if you have a few minutes to go over that and any tips and suggestions, I think that would be great, especially for someone who might be in high school or a teen who might not have a lot of professional experience quite yet.
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously it's like the chicken and egg syndrome. It's like, how do I get a job if I have experience? And how do I get experience if I can't get a job? So believe it or not, there's a lot of other things that show experience rather than just, your job. LinkedIn is actually kind of nice because it has a whole section for like other stuff. So you have experience, which obviously is, jobs, but they're not all jobs. You could be like, you can list volunteer positions, you can link, like if you, if you have work sorry, if you're part of the Clubhouse network, you can like list the Clubhouse network and say what you were. Like you were a mentee, you were a mentor, and you can just list like a few things you did. Like, you know, I volunteered with this group, I did this. It shows initiative and kind of shows leadership skills. And so a lot of people kind of be impressed, even just, you know, like you're doing something at school rather than just the normal stuff like, you know, homework and whatever. So it gives like a more holistic background. And even as a student, like LinkedIn is very useful. You can just list your high school, like, you know, I'm at this high school from, you know, whatever year you started, and I'm just a student. Obviously, people understand, they know you're not, they know what you're probably doing at school, like, you know, doing homework, taking tests. So you don't have to be too specific there, but anything extra, like, you know, any volunteer activities you do, any kind of projects. You can even add like school projects, like, you know, here's like a website I built in this one class. That stuff still counts as professional building as well. Oh, so okay, someone asked a question saying when you upload your things on LinkedIn, should you do it after you've been in the job for a year or like a couple weeks? You can do it as soon as you want, honestly. Some people update their LinkedIn as soon as they get the job offer. Like, oh, I'm working at Amazon now. I mean, it helps in that you just don't forget it. But as far as your like job responsibilities, always make sure to be updating your LinkedIn because your job will change. Sometimes you might get promoted, so note that on your LinkedIn profile. Like now I'm a junior, or you start as a junior and you get promoted to like, you know, a more senior level position. Put that down. Like, you know, my job stuff changes all the time. Sometimes I'm doing a couple of projects and I switch to other projects. It's always good to just kind of show what you're doing. But at the same time, I would just do the LinkedIn. I would update your job on LinkedIn as soon as possible because it just kind of, you know, it alerts your network. So I think I showed you the social media feed. So when people join a company, it updates on their social media feed. So if you're like, oh man, I really want to, you know, work on Amazon, and then you find out one of your connections is now at Amazon, you're like, oh, cool. I know someone there now. So it's very useful in that regards. Any questions or comments? Okay, yeah, thanks for the session. That was fun. If you guys have any if you guys have any other questions you don't want to like say it in a group setting, just message me on LinkedIn or you can email me at my Gmail and I will get back to you.
Thank you again, and thank you everybody for this session. We hope it was useful, and we'll see you at the next one. There's just a few left of this gathering.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.